courtroom didn't need music, didn't need editing, and didn't need a reunion host to stir the pot. The drama unfolded live, raw, and uncut. Doug Christie sat in that chair like he had been rehearsing the role of innocent husband his whole life, chin high, suit pressed, jaw clenched, as if posture could erase proof. But across from him was a storm dressed in calm, Malaysia Pargo, the woman who had promised him that if he crossed a line, she would expose him brick by brick. And today, she kept her word. The gallery was restless, whispers spreading like fire. Reporters clutched their notepads and phones, every eye locked on Malaysia as she took the stand. Jackie Christie sat rigid, her face carved into stone, fighting back a lifetime of emotions threatening to spill. She had defended Doug through whispers and rumors, through years of loyalty, through every test of reality TV and beyond. But this wasn't scripted chaos for ratings. This was betrayal in its purest form, and the evidence was about to shatter everything she thought she knew. When the judge asked if Malaysia had something to present, she didn't hesitate. She pulled out her phone and announced she had recordings, made with full legal consent. Doug's attorney jumped up, voice sharp, demanding it be thrown out. "Objection, Your Honor. This is irregular, prejudicial." But the judge cut him down quickly. "If it's relevant, the court will hear it." Silence fell. The clerk connected the phone to the courtroom speakers, and then came the sound that changed everything. Doug's voice, not the polished media persona, not the soft husband tones, but a raw, venomous arrogance. "Let Jackie find out, I don't care. As long as I've got her name, I own the game." The words were poison in the air. Gasps broke out instantly. Jackie's eyes widened, her lips parted, and in that moment, the weight of decades collapsed onto her shoulders. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't rumor. This was her husband of nearly 3 decades declaring ownership over her existence like she was a brand, not a woman. Doug shifted in his chair, pretending the words were meaningless, but sweat rolled down his temples. His fingers twitched against the desk as if gripping onto the last shreds of control. Jackie turned slowly toward him, her voice low but caught on every microphone. "You used my name. You used my love. You used me." The gallery buzzed, bloggers and reporters already typing headlines before the trial even moved forward. Doug tried to lift his chin again, but Malaysia wasn't done. She pulled out documents, bank transfers, wire receipts, secret accounts. She held them up one by one. "This is $75,000 transferred to an account under another woman's name. This is $100,000 wired to another. 7 more statements exist just like these." The courtroom broke into chaos. Court officers shouted for silence, but the damage was done. Headlines exploded online in real time. Malaysia exposes Doug Christie, fraud and infidelity caught. On tape. Jackie rose to her feet, trembling but no longer weeping. She was fire. "Everything we built, everything I defended, you used to buy women who didn't even know your soul. You used my name to finance your fantasies." Doug tried to speak, tried to spin his way out, muttering about protecting assets, doing it for them, but Jackie's voice cut sharper than a knife. "The only thing you protected was your ego." The gallery erupted again, the moment live-streamed by dozens of spectators. And still, Malaysia wasn't finished. She stepped down, handed over a flash drive, and said calmly, "This has already been delivered to the police." Right on cue, the courtroom doors opened and uniformed officers entered, their presence heavy with authority. The lead investigator looked straight at Doug. "We need to speak with Mr. Christie regarding financial misconduct and potential fraud. He is not under arrest yet, but his cooperation is required." Doug's eyes darted around like a cornered animal. He looked to Jackie for protection, but her stare was cold. He looked to Malaysia, but she was stone. He was trapped, and the world was watching. Outside the courthouse, chaos exploded. Paparazzi shoved against barricades, microphones thrust forward, cameras flashing like lightning. Fans screamed accusations. Social media erupted. Hashtags surged. Doug, double life. Justice for Jackie. Malaysia had receipts. Clips of Doug's arrogant recording and Jackie's trembling confrontation hit timelines instantly. Memes were ruthless. Doug photoshopped as a referee fouling himself. Jackie crowned as a queen, burning a castle. Malaysia dropping receipts like grenades. Doug's reputation, once polished and praised, was in free fall. Meanwhile, inside the Christie home, Jackie unleashed years of suppressed pain. Surrounded by photos, trophies, anniversary cards, she snapped. A framed love letter from their 10th anniversary was torn in half. Basketball memorabilia flew across the room. Picture frames shattered against the walls. It wasn't just destruction of things, it was destruction of illusions. She had fought strangers, humiliated women on television, and played ride or die for decades, all for a man who turned her loyalty into a business transaction. Doug, meanwhile, was dragged into interrogation. Detective Monroe leaned across the table, unimpressed by excuses. Doug stammered about protecting assets, about strategies, about business, but Monroe shut him down. You weren't protecting your family. You were paying women off like it was a game show. We've got transfers, emails, burner calls, and now Malaysia's evidence. This isn't love and hip-hop. This is federal fraud. And you're running out of script. Doug snapped back that Malaysia was lying, that she had always had it out for him. But the detective wasn't swayed. She didn't tank your life for fun. She exposed your lies with receipts, and if even half of this sticks, you're facing charges you can't charm your way out of. Outside, reporters spread whispers of the interrogation, fueling more headlines, more fire online. Doug versus Malaysia. Doug versus Jackie. Doug versus truth itself. And truth was winning. The deeper twist? Malaysia hadn't even revealed everything. What she showed in court was only half the evidence. The rest, emails, voicemails, recorded late-night calls, was already in the hands of legal teams preparing joint civil suits with Jackie and other women. A leaked voicemail whispered across blogs. If Jackie ever finds out about Kenya, tell her it was just for clout. She's too old to leave me anyway. I own her loyalty. That line alone detonated across social media. Feminist pages reposted it. Celebrity commentators dragged him. Fans burned his jerseys online. Doug, the once celebrated man of loyalty and discipline, was now a caricature of arrogance and manipulation. His agent resigned. His publicist deleted accounts. His charity board froze all funding. Within 48 hours, his empire cracked. And still, Malaysia was calm, collected, composed. She wasn't doing this for clout. She was doing this for truth. By nightfall, Jackie stood on her balcony overlooking Los Angeles, silent but unbroken. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She whispered into the night. He thought I wouldn't find out. He thought Malaysia wouldn't go there. But now the world knows he never deserved me. That single line, caught by a fan's livestream mic, went viral instantly. It wasn't a breakdown. It was a declaration. And Malaysia, scrolling through the chaos, watching the world finally understand, simply said, "This is only the beginning." The courthouse steps looked like a war zone. Reporters screamed questions, fans shouted insults, camera flashes painted the night sky, and through it all, Doug Christie was shoved into a black SUV surrounded by police and lawyers. The man who once strutted onto red carpets with a grin was now ducking his head, shielding his face like a criminal caught red-handed. Inside the vehicle, his jaw was locked, his hands trembling, his mind racing with excuses. He muttered to his attorney that it was all blown out of proportion, that Malaysia had orchestrated this circus, that Jackie would eventually come to her senses. But outside, the narrative had already shifted. Doug wasn't the victim. He wasn't the hero. He was the headline villain, and nothing could undo the stain of his own voice echoing across the world. Meanwhile, back in Jackie's mansion, silence carried more weight than screams. She had thrown the photos, smashed the frames, ripped apart the letters. Now she stood in the wreckage of memories, staring at the man's face frozen in old photographs, wondering how many times he had smiled at her with lies already brewing behind his teeth. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Family, producers, bloggers, but she ignored them all. The only call she answered was Malaysia's. On speaker, her voice was calm yet firm. "I told you I'd burn it down, Jackie. I told him not to use your name, not to treat you like property, and he didn't listen." Jackie's reply was trembling but strong. "You didn't burn it down, Malaysia. He did. You just made sure the world could see the ashes." That conversation leaked by someone in Jackie's camp, went viral before dawn. Fans called it the Sisters in Survival moment, a clip replayed on podcasts, gossip blogs, and morning news shows. Doug, trapped in the precinct, faced hours of questioning. Detective Monroe was relentless, sliding documents across the table, wire, receipts, emails, burner phone records. Doug tried to explain them away, calling them business ventures, loans, investments. But each explanation fell flat when matched against Malaysia's recordings. So you expect me to believe you wired $100,000 to a woman listed as support services for a basketball foundation you run, but you can't explain what service she provided? Doug swallowed hard, muttering excuses that even he didn't believe. Monroe leaned closer, voice sharp. You didn't protect Jackie. You exploited her. You didn't protect your assets. You hid them. And now the IRS wants a word. Doug flinched at the mention of federal agencies. This was no longer just a scandal. It was the kind of case that ruined legacies forever. As word spread, VH1 producers scrambled behind the scenes. They saw dollar signs in the chaos, already drafting emergency specials and reunion rewrites. But this wasn't a storyline they could control. Jackie refused to return calls, her publicist issuing a single statement: Mrs. Christie is prioritizing her family and her truth. Translation: VH1 had lost its grip. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was real life, and Jackie wasn't handing the narrative over to cameras. Malaysia, on the other hand, chose her platforms carefully. She went live once, speaking with deadly calm. This isn't about ratings, this isn't about clout. This is about a man who used women, stole from his family, and thought he'd never be caught. Jackie deserved better. We all did. That line became the quote plastered across media outlets. Jackie deserved better. Fans reposted it as if it were gospel, the words echoing across timelines like a battle cry. The fallout was swift. Doug's former teammates distanced themselves. His longtime agent resigned publicly, saying, "I cannot represent someone facing such disturbing allegations." His charity foundation released a statement freezing all accounts pending investigation. Sponsors pulled back. The empire Doug built was collapsing brick by brick, faster than even Malaysia expected. And Jackie, no longer in denial, leaned into the collapse. She met with attorneys not just for divorce proceedings, but for civil lawsuits tied to the financial fraud. She wasn't going to walk away quietly. She wanted scorched earth. She wanted the world to know what betrayal looked like when you played it in real time with real receipts. At the same time, whispers began swirling about women connected to Doug's secret accounts. 2 had already left Los Angeles days before. The trial began. Rumors suggested they had been tipped off about the storm, fleeing before subpoenas could touch them. Jackie, in an interview with Shade Room, spoke with a quiet devastation. "I didn't know I was standing in the storm too. I thought I was protecting him, but all I was doing was protecting the mask he wore." The interview broke records. For years, Jackie had been painted as the aggressive, controlling wife on reality TV. But now fans saw her as something different. A woman betrayed, manipulated, and discarded. Sympathy poured in. The same fans who once dragged her were now flooding her comments with messages of solidarity. Doug, on the other hand, couldn't escape the walls closing in. Another recording surfaced, leaked by a former teammate. In it, Doug drunkenly muttered, "Malaysia's going to regret this. I've got stuff on her too. This ain't over." Instead of helping him, the clip destroyed him further. Blogs labeled it witness intimidation. Police confirmed they were opening a separate line of questioning into threats. Doug's image as the disciplined family man was obliterated. Now he was the aggressor, the manipulator, the desperate man grasping for control he no longer had. Jackie responded with a single Instagram post, a lion emoji, and the words, "The lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep. But if the sheep tries to bite, the lion roars." That post hit 1 million likes in 6 hours, fans rallying behind her transformation from ride-or-die wife to survivor reclaiming her voice. Malaysia remained composed through it all. She didn't flood social media with posts, didn't clap back at Doug's supporters. Every move she made was deliberate, calculated. Her silence spoke louder than his excuses. Insiders revealed she had already passed half the evidence to federal investigators, including connections between Doug's secret accounts and offshore transfers. If proven true, this wasn't just infidelity and fraud. It was conspiracy. It was criminal. And it could mean prison. By the end of the week, Doug was officially served with divorce papers. Jackie's attorney confirmed she was seeking not just separation, but full review of all contracts, assets, and production deals tied to Doug's name. VH1 insiders leaked the news first. Jackie Christie has initiated legal separation from Doug Christie. A press conference is expected within 48 hours. Fans flooded timelines with fire emojis, calling it the end of an era. Doug, once respected for his loyalty, was now mocked as the poster child of arrogance. His apology post, drafted by PR, was never uploaded. Even his own team didn't believe the performance anymore. That night, Jackie stood before cameras for the first time since the recordings. Her eyes glistened, her lips pressed tight. She spoke slowly, carefully, but each word carried the weight of decades. For years, I was the shield. I took the bullets. I made excuses. I believed in a man who didn't believe in me. But not anymore. Doug Christie lied to me. He manipulated me. He made me doubt my worth as a woman, a wife, a mother. And when I stayed silent, he grew bolder. So today, I say this. I believe Malaysia. I believe the women he used, and I believe justice is coming. The crowd erupted. The internet exploded. Jackie Christie, once mocked for blind loyalty, was now the face of liberation. Doug watched from the precinct as the press conference replayed on TV. His hands shook, his jaw tightened, and he muttered curses under his breath. He had underestimated Malaysia, underestimated Jackie, underestimated the world's hunger for truth. Now, no script, no reunion, no PR stunt could save him. He wasn't the king of his castle anymore. He was a man cornered by receipts, betrayed by his own arrogance, and drowning in the fallout of lies too heavy to carry. The morning after Jackie's press conference, Los Angeles didn't wake up to sunshine. It woke up to headlines. Doug Christie's face was everywhere, splashed across screens with captions that painted him as a fraud, a liar, a manipulator. From NBA star to federal suspect, Jackie Christie breaks her silence. Malaysia Pargo delivers the receipts. Fans weren't asking whether he did it anymore. They were asking how deep it went, how long it had been happening, and how many women had been bought with Jackie's name. Doug sat in silence in his temporary holding room, eyes bloodshot, hair disheveled, trying to hold on to fragments of dignity. His phone buzzed nonstop with calls from lawyers, agents, old teammates, but none of them had good news. Sponsorships gone, charity funds frozen, VH1 distancing itself. Even his so-called friends had gone mute. Across town, Jackie stood tall in a tailored black suit, walking into her attorney's office with Malaysia at her side. The optics were undeniable. Two women once on opposite ends of drama, now standing shoulder to shoulder as allies. Paparazzi swarmed the building, shouting questions about whether Jackie would testify against her husband, whether Malaysia had more evidence, whether this was the official end of the Christie legacy. Jackie didn't answer, but her silence said more than words. Inside the office, stacks of documents sat on the table. Divorce filings, financial disclosures, subpoenas, and a civil suit draft aimed directly at Doug. Malaysia slid a folder across the table. "This is everything else," she said. Jackie opened it and froze. Emails, photos, travel receipts, the puzzle pieces she hadn't seen before. "He planned it all," Malaysia added softly. Jackie's face didn't crumble. It hardened. For the first time in years, she wasn't protecting Doug. She was preparing to bury him. Meanwhile, social media had turned Doug into a global cautionary tale. TikTok creators dramatized his arrogant voice notes. Memes showed him holding briefcases, labeled Jackie's money while sneaking out back doors. Twitter threads pieced together his history, from minor rumors years ago to the present avalanche of receipts. And through it all, fans rallied behind Jackie. Hashtags like Yarin Stand With Jackie and Malaysia Saved Her trended for days. Even celebrities chimed in. Former VH1 stars reposted clips. Activists used Jackie's speech as a rallying cry for women betrayed by men hiding behind power. Doug's empire wasn't just crumbling. It was being dismantled piece by piece by the very public he once played to. In the courtroom, the tone shifted from betrayal to criminality. Federal investigators revealed that Doug's hidden accounts weren't just for mistresses. Some were tied to shell companies moving money offshore. The IRS confirmed at least 3 suspicious wire transfers from his basketball foundation into private accounts overseas. The judge announced, "This is no longer just a civil issue. This is a federal inquiry." Doug's shoulders slumped. The mask of control slipped completely. He wasn't the polished star anymore. He was a man cornered by paper trails and arrogance too loud to hide. Jackie sat quietly, her expression unreadable, but her silence spoke volumes. She wasn't crying. She wasn't raging. She was watching the man she once built a life with drown in the evidence he created himself. The emotional weight wasn't just legal, it was personal. One of Doug's longtime assistants came forward with damning emails. Subject line, "Payment plan for loyalty, do not forward." Attached were invoices labeled "Support Services" and "Confidential Arrangements." It was undeniable proof that Doug's deception wasn't spontaneous. It was orchestrated, planned like a business strategy, executed without remorse. Malaysia looked at Jackie, shaking her head. "He didn't just cheat, Jackie, he ran a whole operation." The court gasped when the emails were read aloud, Jackie closing her eyes as decades of trust turned into nothing more than spreadsheets of betrayal. Outside, the public treated the scandal like a cultural event. News vans camped outside the courthouse. Bloggers live-streamed daily updates. Fans debated every detail in comment sections. But what made this different from ordinary reality TV drama was the gravity. This wasn't shade. This wasn't scripted. This wasn't staged for ratings. This was a woman's marriage turned into evidence, a man's arrogance turned into potential prison time, and a friend's warning turned into a movement. Doug tried. One last desperate move. He arranged for a statement to be read by his lawyer, claiming Malaysia had a vendetta and Jackie was being manipulated. But the courtroom laughed when Malaysia calmly raised her hand and offered another recording. Doug, drunk, bragging about using Jackie's loyalty as leverage. "She's too old to leave me. I own her loyalty." The words echoed again, this time in federal records, sealing his downfall. Doug's lawyer buried his face in his hands. Doug himself sat motionless, as if realizing for the first time that the empire he thought untouchable had been burned to ashes by his own arrogance. By evening, Jackie addressed her supporters once more. Standing before cameras flanked by Malaysia, she spoke clearly. "This isn't just about me. This isn't just about Malaysia. This is about truth. For years, women have been silenced, manipulated, told to carry shame that was never theirs. Today, I put that shame back where it belongs, on Doug Christie." The applause was thunderous, both in the room and online. Clips of her speech spread like wildfire, cementing her transformation from silent wife to survivor warrior. Doug spent the night isolated, scrolling through coverage of his own destruction. Every article, every clip, every comment painted him as the man who threw away loyalty for arrogance, who destroyed his marriage for vanity, who risked his freedom for ego. His calls went unanswered. His posts were drowned in backlash. His empire was gone. And Jackie, once his shield, now stood with Malaysia, holding the torch that lit his downfall. In the end, this wasn't just a scandal. It was a reckoning. Doug Christie thought he was untouchable, that his fame and his wife's loyalty were permanent shields. But Malaysia Pargo shattered that illusion with evidence, and Jackie Christie finished it with courage. Together, they rewrote the narrative, not as rivals in reality TV chaos, but as women who refused to be silenced by a man who built an empire on lies. Doug had thought he owned the game, but the truth? The game owned him, and now it was over.